Hello and welcome back to Joe's Math Tools. In our session today, we are converting a decimal number in the thousands place to a percentage. In our first example, we're going to be converting our number 467 thousandths into a percentage. Now to convert this number into a percentage, you must remember that to change to a percentage means that my decimal number will be multiplied to 100%. So I'm going to be multiplying my 467 thousandths by 100%. Now with multiplication, you can multiply in either way. You can either decide to put the 467 thousandths at the bottom, or you can write this number at the top. Either way, remember that multiplication is commutative, which means that it doesn't matter the order, we're still going to get to the same answer. So for this first example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the parts of the multiplication. However, in the second example, I'm going to take pretty much a shortcut in terms of multiplying my numbers. So for this part of the example, we're going to go through our multiplication for each of our digits. So we know that 0 times 7 will be 0, same thing with 6 and 4, and also our 0. So before we begin multiplying by our second digit, I'm going to put in 1 0 for my ones place. And again, we're going to fill in our 4 zeros for each of our digits. And then before we begin multiplying by our 1, we're going to put in our 2 zeros and then begin multiplying. So 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 4 is 4, and 1 times 0 is 0. Now let's sum these numbers up. Going to go back and 0 for my first column, 0 for my second column, 7 in my third. We're going to bring down our 6. 4, and we can write the 0 or we don't have to, but either way it won't change the value of our number. Now let's put in our decimal point. So we're going to go back to our numbers and count how many digits are behind the decimal point in each of our numbers. So in the first one, we are 3 digits behind the decimal point. In our second number, there are no digits behind the decimal point. So in our answer, we need to have a total of 3 digits behind the decimal point. So we'll count 1, 2, 3, and input our decimal point. So my number of 467 thousandths as a percentage is 46 7/10. So that is our percentage. Okay, so let's try another example. You can feel free to convert your number 265 thousandths into a percentage, and then when you're ready you can unpause the video and follow along with me. Now to begin this multiplication, again remember that our number is being multiplied to our 100%. Percentage is always out of 100, so we're always multiplying by 100. So now we're going to take our 265 thousandths, multiply to 100. Now in our first example, I went through the steps so that you can have an idea of what the multiplication is by 0. But we know that regardless of what we multiply by 0, it will always be 0. But for this step, I'm not going to go through all of those zeros again, I guess if you put it that way. So what I'm going to do for this step is I'm just going to apply my rules that I know when it comes to multiplication. So to multiply by my 1, I'm going to need to input a 0 in my calculations for each of these two numbers that we would have already multiplied by. So in the first example, when we started multiplying by our 1 row, we inputted 2 zeros first. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here as well. I'm going to put in those 2 zeros and now begin multiplying by my 1. So 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 0 is 0. Now, even though we didn't multiply by all of those zeros, we still have to go back and count the digits behind our decimal point. So in our first number, we have 1, 2, 3 digits behind the decimal point. In my second number, there are no digits behind the decimal point. So in my answer, we should have a total of 3 digits behind the decimal point. Now I have to stress this before I move on. For my persons, if you feel more comfortable by going through the multiplication with all of your zeros, by all means, do what makes you comfortable. If you aren't, and then you understand the steps and having to skip all of those zeros, then you can feel free to do this step as well. But whatever stage you are at, work at your pace. Okay, so now let's input our decimal point. We have 1, 2, 3 digits behind our decimal point. So as our percentage, my number will be 26 and 5/10 percentage. So it's 26.5%. And there you have it. We just converted our decimal number in the thousands place into a percentage. So remember that your percentages are always out of 100. So anytime you're converting a decimal or a fractional number into a percentage, you're just going to multiply that number by 100%. So I hope this video is very helpful to you. And remember that this is Jules Math Tools, where we make math easy.